we're back and we're here and we're multiplying. Your child understands the fact that multiplication is the art of grouping numbers. It's putting numbers in groups and using those repeated addition strategies, those arrays, and using those groups. It's great, and now it's time to build fluency. And we're working now with one of my favorite numbers, because this number, along with the number 2, and along with the number 9, and along with the number 10, and 1, and 0, and all these numbers, but this number more in particular allows your child the opportunity to really prove how smart they are. It allows those brain juices to start flowing and to start pumping. And you'll notice it especially early on with this whole cycle of multiplication. In reality, when I'm building fluency, I generally start with this number because all other numbers can really kind of base itself off of this one. Well, what we're going to work on is today multiplying building fluency with the number 5. Now, what I'm going to say is the same in all of these building fluency videos. I want you to be sure that you do not under no circumstance try to enforce your child to memorize multiplication facts. All right. It is great to buy flashcards and it's great to have your child recall these facts, but memorizing them is not working. Don't sit them for hours in front of different, apps or different flashcards or different computer screens or monitors and have your child just continue to 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. That is not really going to be beneficial in the long run when it comes time when your child really has to decode math and understand some of the meanings. Allow your child to understand and learn the rules of multiplication rather than memorize. Now, let's work on these 5's, right? When you're multiplying 5's, you're basically putting 5 of something in groups or some number of groups into 5's, right? And so if we were looking at the number or the equation 5 times 2 or 2 times 5 in that matter, you know your child is basically grouping these numbers. So right here we have 5 groups of 2. So we have 1, 2, that's a group. 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 groups of 2. And if you count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we get the number 10. Or either you can have 2 groups of 5, such as I have one hand with 5 fingers and I have 2 hands with 5 fingers. So put them together, how many fingers do I have? 10. That'll be very important very soon. All right, so it's basically putting these numbers into groups as your child will know and as you know to instruct your child to help them out understanding this multiplication. Now, when I am working with 5's, when I'm working with a child working with multiples of 5, I definitely allow them to use the manipulatives that will not go so far as their hand, their fingers, right? These multiples are very important because if they understand how to count, skip count by 5's, and then they have these 10 fingers, it will really help them and it will really prove beneficial to many of your children who already sing of 5 songs, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 60. It's a song that we learn in preschool that really goes along with this whole concept of math. Great song. If you have a young one and you're watching this video, I encourage you to sing that song. And basically it's just repeating 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and you go all the way to 100, as you know. All right, well, what we need to focus on now is that when your child sees a multiple of 5, it will always end in a 0 and a 5, all right, in a 0 or a 5. And when I say end, that means the number in the ones place. So if you look at the multiples of 5, we have 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 1 is 5, times 2 is 10, see the 0, times 3, 15, 4, times 5, times 6, times 7, times 8, and times 9. You're always going to get a 0 or 5 in the ones place, and it interchanges. If you multiply a number times an even number, If you multiply 5 times an even number, you're generally going to have a 0 in the ones place. And if you multiply 5 times an odd number, you're going to have a 5 in the odds place. Now, how does this help? If you have a number, if your child's working with 5 times, I don't know, 7, then the product is 35. But because 7 is an odd number, you know that there's going to be an odd number in the ones place. And if I have 5 times 4, 4 is an even number, therefore I will have 0, which is an even number in the ones place as well. So that helps with regards of self-correcting and making sure your child understands whether or not they're right, for lack of better words. So when you multiply by 5s, simply all your child's going to do to count by 5s. Now, if I go back, you see these hands, and these hands represent what I was saying. Allow your child to use their hands early on, and sooner or later they'll understand and build that fluency. But allow them to use those hands as much as they need early on, and just watch how the more they practice, the more fluent they'll be. They will not memorize though. Remember that. No memory. All right, so I have 5 times 7, and we just worked on that, and we know the product is 35. But when you're teaching this, allow your child, tell them, hold up 7 fingers and count by 5s. So I'll do I hold up 7, or however you want to hold up 7, and then you count by 5. So I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Therefore, 5 times 7, as we know and as your child will now learn, 5 times 7 equals 35. Now, next we have, I'm going to fix that for a second. All right, the next number we have 5 times 3. 3 fingers, 5, 10, 15. 5 times 3 equals 15. And as we know, it is 5 groups of 7 and 5 groups of 3. And lastly, we have 8 times 5. 5, well, I'll hold up my 8 fingers first. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 5 times 8 equals 40. Again, your child will then start to understand this concept. And as they see these 5 facts more and more, they'll build that fluency up. You don't want to, again, put them in a room and just say 5 times 8 is always 40. 5 times 8 is always 40. You want to give them the opportunity to work out trial and error, understand those steps of counting by their fingers, and then getting away from that and start to use those and say, hey, I can recall those facts. Not necessarily memorize them, I can recall them because I've used 5 times 8 so many times that when it's time for 5 times 80, they're like, okay, 5 times 8 is 40. Then I have my 0 is 400. And your child will really understand those facts, and they'll really start coming on. Again, 5s are some of the multiples that I like to work with early on because it allows for that 5 song that they learn in preschool. It also allows them to use their fingers and to build on to different strategies. Enjoy working with your child. And again, thank you for joining me on my learning block. I look forward to seeing you next time. Keep learning.